Coming up, a new food recall over listeria concerns, what you need to know.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. It is a frosty, chilly night in the bluegrass. It almost feels like we've skipped to the end of November. Meteorologist Eric Dean tells us how cold we'll get tonight. Eric.
That's right. Good evening, Steve. Good evening, everybody. The freeze warning and the frost advisory that we were talking about earlier today, now in effect across portions of eastern Kentucky. There's the freeze warning now in effect until 9 a.m. for Lawrence County, Kentucky. Everybody else is under a frost advisory, again, now in effect as of about 42 seconds ago. This goes into effect until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. This is just part one of the story. Part two will take place tomorrow night. Outside right now, we're seeing temperatures in the 30s and 40s, upper 30s towards Hazard, as well as London, 41, Somerset, 42, and Monticello, 40 in Pikeville, as well as Grundy. Still seeing a few splash and dash showers on live pinpoint Doppler radar to the south and east of Hazard. Otherwise, the rain chance is out of here. We'll be left with partly cloudy skies till we get into the early morning hours. Then we'll see temperatures going into the low to mid 30s on the high end, upper 20s towards Irvin, 35 in Hazard, 35 Jackson, 30 in Manchester, as well as Monticello. Some places could see feels like temperatures in the mid to upper 20s. Now, as I mentioned, this is just part one of the story. Part two takes place tomorrow night, and we'll talk about that coming up in the first alert forecast in a few minutes. Steve.
Eric, thank you. A judge sentenced a Whitley County man who killed a 3-year-old last year to life in prison. Jordan Taylor pleaded guilty in the 2023 death of 3-year-old Amora Smallwood. He admitted to charges of murder, sodomy, and strangulation. The guilty plea meant Taylor avoided the possibility of a jury giving him the death penalty. At the end of today's hearing, Taylor's attorney questioned if the death penalty would have been a legal option because of Taylor's IQ.
What else could he be? I mean, he's a monster. He got a sentence he deserves, to the extent we can give him that in this building.
Amora's mother, Alexandra Ward, faces a complicity to murder charge. Her trial is scheduled for March. A Pike County man is charged in connection with his mother's death. On Monday, Kentucky State Police responded to a home on Old Wagner Station Road in the Coal Run Village area. 75-year-old Paulette Mullins was found with a gunshot wound and pronounced dead. Her son, 59-year-old Uhas, was arrested after several hours of negotiating with several officers that responded to the scene.
So there's multiple different agencies there. You had the Kentucky State Police, the Coal Run City Police, Pike County Sheriff's Office was there. Pike County Emergency Management came out and helped as far as the scene, controlling the scene there.
KSP Trooper Michael Coleman says officials with KSP's Special Response Team were also at the scene. Uhas was charged with murder relating to domestic violence, terroristic threatening, and third-degree assault. Tonight we are hearing from the new Letcher County Sheriff for the first time since taking over for Mickey Steins, who retired after being charged with killing the district judge. Sheriff Billy Jones is asking for patience as they transition into new leadership. Jones worked as a school resource officer before taking the oath earlier this month. As he switches roles and there is a greater demand for security, Jones says they are working to get back to full strength.
We had two road deputies at the time. Now since I've came down from the high school, I've had to assign a deputy up there. Deputy Alan Borums is now the new school resource officer. And we have one deputy that is resigning, taking new employment, so we're actively hiring right now.
The sheriff says their K-9 is now at the Mount Vernon Police Department. Hundreds of products sold at grocery chains like Walmart are part of a nationwide recall. Millions of pounds of Bruce Pack meat are being recalled. They may be contaminated with listeria. Grayson Passmore spoke to local health and safety officials about what you need to know.
Bruce Pack meat is at the center of a recall of almost 10 million pounds of meat and poultry that may be contaminated with listeria bacteria.
It's important for people to pay attention to this because unfortunately people died from the listeria outbreak earlier in the year. We don't want to see that happen now.
The recall involves stores like Kroger, Trader Joe's, and Aldi's, and brands like Taylor Farms and Rouse.
Listeria shows itself with body stiffness, stomach pains.
With the Fayette County Health Department, Kevin Hall says if you have eaten any of the now recalled foods, it's important to know the signs and symptoms of listeria, especially for certain groups of people.
Our senior adults, so people who are over 65, anyone with a compromised immune system, and anyone who might be pregnant.
It seems like only 2 or 3 times a year you'll have a recall that rises to the level of, say, the Boar's Head recall that was out earlier this year, where people are actually getting ill or dying from it.
While most recalls aren't as large as this, Steve McLean with the Kentucky Retail Federation says worried customers can sign up for alerts from the FDA or even their local grocery store for notice when any recall happens. But he says this recall now also affects Amazon Kitchen users.
Particularly your direct-to-consumer product. How do you get that message out to the consumer who didn't get it from a store?
Creating a growing challenge for their food safety network. In Lexington, Grayson Passmore, WKYT.
We have a list of the recalled items on our website, WYMT.com. Earlier this evening, folks gathered at the Perry County Public Library for a candidate forum. The event had an open floor for audience members to ask candidates questions. There was also a live stream that allowed viewers to submit questions. Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney Jonathan Wilder and former Commonwealth's Attorney John Hanson are running for Commonwealth's Attorney. One question involved plans to promote civil rights.
That is the single biggest power that we have to influence civil rights, is our ability as this body to influence what the legislature does about what we see. But civil rights is not just black and white, and we do have a significant minority population here in Perry County, and we need to make sure that those people are taken care of.
But if you go across that line and you're being picked on because of the civil rights, the new laws that have just passed, that is the Kentucky Safety Act, have provisions in there that will allow you to kind of go after these folks a little bit more.
The first hour of the forum was for 84th District State Representative candidates. Democrat Zach Hall was there. Incumbent Republican Chris Fugit did not attend. Kentucky's next legislative session does not begin until the new year, but that does not mean Kentucky lawmakers are not hard at work. Jessica Umbro talked with one lawmaker who is working on a bill that she hopes would hold legal guardians civilly liable for damage caused by a firearm in the hands of a child.
One law professor told me your rights end at the tip of your nose. So if your child goes out and does something with this gun, you can be civilly liable for it.
The latest draft of Republican State Representative Kim Banta's bill says civil liability would pertain to parents and guardians who allow a minor in their care to have access to a firearm. They would be responsible for any damages caused by negligence or willful misconduct with a firearm.
Not telling you have to lock it up. I'm just asking people to think about it and know that if your child takes a gun and shoots the neighbor's dogs, that you're going to have to probably buy them a new dog.
While there have been a few high-profile cases of parents being held criminally accountable for the damages caused by their child using a weapon, such as in school shooter Ethan Crumbley's parents' case in Michigan, this bill would not cover the same ground.
The act is meant to bring heightened awareness, heightened protections available so that to try to curb gun violence with youth. Whether it is going to work or not, that would remain to be seen.
A civil case focuses on monetary penalties rather than one that would send someone to jail. Some see it as a reminder of parental responsibility.
I think about all the young people who I've represented who may not be in that situation if the parents are more unconscious or on guard or were being proactive in their children's lives.
Representative Banta says she wants to be clear on what the bill does not do.
I'm in no way stopping gun purchases, in no way stopping ownership. I have no interest in that at all.
In Frankfort, Jessica Umbro, WKYT.
Representative Tina Bojanowski, a Democrat from Louisville, is set to be the primary co-sponsor of the bill. A legendary East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia broadcaster died Monday. Johnny Wood worked for WCYB in Bristol for 44 years before retiring in 2012. He was known for his many years anchoring the morning newscasts, his weekly fishing reports, and his Lunch with Johnny segments. Friends can come by Weaver Funeral Home in Bristol between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Thursday and Friday to sign a register book. Johnny Wood was 82. Another East Tennessee native that spent decades in the healthcare industry has died. Charles Housley died in Lexington Saturday. He was born in La Follette, Tennessee, and worked in various healthcare roles through the years. In 1998, he came to Perry County to become CEO of Hazard ARH and worked here for several years. He became close friends with former Hazard Mayor Bill Gorman and others. His visitation will be held at Cathedral Christ the King Catholic Church in Lexington Friday from 11 until the funeral mass at 1. Charles Housley was 85. Coming up on Mountain News at 11, Election Day is exactly 3 weeks away, and early in-person voting is underway in one crucial battleground state.
And we have a frost advisory and a freeze warning now in effect for portions of eastern Kentucky, but there's one more advisory we need to talk about. Details in a few minutes.